A show of compassion or a reason for outrage. Al-Megrahi's release is unfathomable for many of the victims' families. And he served just over 8 years of his sentence. Joining us now to talk about the Compassionate Release Program and reaction to it, attorney Rocco Cipparone, who defended one of the men accused of plotting the attack on Fort Dix. Rocco, thanks for coming in.
You're welcome, Keri-lee.
And it's important to point out here that you're a defense attorney but also a former federal prosecutor. Want to get your perspective here. Should any compassion be shown to this man? He certainly didn't show compassion to these hundreds of victims.
In this circumstance, I can't see any compassion being shown to this man. There were 270 people whose lives were destroyed and their families extended beyond that. So this guy should not have been shown any compassion.
The judges in Scotland, would this have happened here?
This would never have happened here. In our federal system, we have a compassionate release program as well, but someone with this kind of horrendous crime behind him and that kind of sentence would never have been released, in my opinion, regardless of his medical condition.
And Secretary of State Hillary Clinton would agree. She urged the Scottish Justice Minister not to make this mercy call, but he did. Should a judge have this kind of power?
I think a judge should have the discretion in certain circumstances to do it. In this kind of case, I can't imagine any judge realistically exercising that discretion again in this country, but I do think judges should have discretion in certain circumstances.
Now, everyone on the plane was killed. People on the ground were killed. Houses were burned to the ground. Cars burned out. Some British relatives of the victims are reportedly backing his release, but back here in the U.S., not really the case. The majority believe that he should die in prison. Should the families have any recourse when a decision like this is made?
Well, I think the family's input should be taken into consideration when a judge is assessing these kinds of petitions, but it shouldn't be the only factor, because often that's driven by emotion one way or the other, but it should be a factor.
Now, we see this here not very much, but we do see this here. In July, the California Parole Board denied compassionate release to Susan Atkins, convicted in 7 murders as part of the Charles Manson clan. She reportedly suffers from brain cancer and partial paralysis, costing taxpayers a lot of money, about $1 million a year in her health care costs. So do you think costs should be factored into these compassionate release?
Certainly with these kind of crimes, the Manson crimes, this guy, I do not think cost should be a factor. On smaller crimes, on things that don't have physical harm to people, yes, maybe we should consider cost. But generally speaking, I would say it should not be a factor.
When you heard about this case, what was your reaction? My
reaction was I was kind of disgusted by the fact that this guy was released. I am a defense lawyer, but by the same token, I'm a human being, and I understand the havoc he wreaked. He cost 270 people their lives. He should never have been released from prison.
Yeah, these families are devastated. All right, Rocco Cipparone, thanks so much for your very unique perspective. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, Keri-lee.
Well, Al-Megrahi's release is the topic of tonight's poll on myfoxphilly.com. Should terminally ill prisoners be released on compassionate grounds? Look at the results. So far, 86% say no. Just 13% say yes. Tell us what you think and sound off about his release in our blog section.